survived the brutality of the age of feuds and forays, but they were about to face a much more insidious attack, one that would have a deep impact on all the Highland clans. In the early 1600s, James VI of Scotland devised a plan to end clan feuding once and for all. He forced clan chiefs to sign a series of acts designed to curb the lifestyle and traditions they'd enjoyed for generations. Now ruler of Scotland, England and Ireland, King James was strapped for cash. He wanted the Highland clans to help fill the royal coffers. In order to do this, he first had to bring the culture of feuding and feasting to an end. Signed in 1609, the Statutes of Iona were the first salvo in a sustained attack on the Highland clans. Under threat of imprisonment, Rory MacLeod agreed to this code of conduct that bound him to keep the peace. Above all, the statutes were designed to convert his warriors into farmers and fishermen. An original record of the statutes still exists and is kept at the National Archives of Scotland, where I met historian Alan McInnes. Alan, what's in the box?
What's in the box? We actually have the famous or infamous Statutes of Iona.
What kind of restrictions are being put in place here?
The general statutes will specify that drink is to be curtailed, there's not to be excessive drinking, cutting the number of weapons and such things. But the other more important point than actually restrictions is that you have this problem of what do you do with fighting men? How do you make them productive? And what the statutes are saying is that these people should be declared redundant, as should be other parasitical poet classes.
Like the bards?
Like the bard, but they didn't contribute to the working of the land. So what these statutes led to, and where there's a much more profound change, is the statutes put emphasis on the productive use of land.
Rather than a culture of display?
Estate management rather than display.
And what did James VI hope to achieve by this?
The Highlands and the West Highlands has been a particularly violent area, and James wishes to curtail this, to curtail the notion of the feuds, the desperate feuding between, for example, the Macleods and the Macdonalds.
So the king saw the Highland chiefs as being barbarous and uncivilised in some way?
He saw them as being a propensity towards violence, a propensity towards barbarity, a propensity towards excessive drink. And he wanted to control this. We can see here the reference to the shipping of wine. That is to curtail the import of luxuries such as wines and brandies.
Now, it's interesting that he singles out feasting and drinking as part of the problem. In what sense would you say that this was an attack on Gaelic culture?
The state is no longer prepared just to let things go in the peripheries. It wants to keep an eye and keep a check on things. The statute signposts a change in attitude by the state, a state that can now coordinate resources in London, Dublin and Edinburgh to change the world completely for the likes of Rory Moore. And so it was a testing time. It became a standard which you could judge chiefs, are they good citizens or are they not? And Rory Moore eventually died a good citizen, having been a warlord for most of his life.
The Statutes of Iona marked the beginning of the end for the old clan system. They were followed in 1616 with another set of even tighter restrictions on the Highland clan chiefs. From now on, clan feuds were settled in the courtroom rather than on the battlefield. The pen had become mightier than the sword, but despite the king's attempts to curb the lifestyle of the clan chiefs, Gaelic culture actually flourished, and by the end of the 1600s was experiencing a golden age. Whilst the fighting was curtailed, celebration through music, poetry and song continued. Under the patronage of the Macleods, there was an explosion of creativity that helped establish a tradition which remains strong to this day. And nowhere is this more evident than on Skye. Singer and musician Mary Ann Kennedy is keenly aware of just how close we came to losing a unique part of our national identity. Mary Ann, as I understand it, the monarchy in Edinburgh had a deliberate policy of unpicking Gaelic culture. How successful was it?
The Statutes of Iona set about anglicising or de-Gaelicising the Highlands of Scotland by taking away all the elements that contributed to that culture, to that clan system, to the structure that allowed these people and that life to exist. And I suppose in many ways it was successful. It attacked the family system of the clan chiefs, it attacked language, it attacked their ability to control their own individual little worlds. It's a miracle that Gaelic language and culture still exists today. The whole system of patronage of the arts, it wasn't just about creating music and song, it was an assertion of identity. And in doing that, it's a very difficult thing to get rid of. A person will be a person, a people will be a people, and they will find a way of asserting that about themselves. And if you look at Dunvegan, the seat of the Macleods, that was the last great flourish in many ways of this system of the artists and the clan chiefs and their coexistence. Songs and poetry that stem from that century do come right through to today.
Gaelic culture has always been a celebration of life in the Highlands and Islands, but its role is not always reserved for joyous occasions. Today, the clan piper is lamenting the passing of the 29th Macleod chief, who now rests here with his ancestors at Kilmuir Church near Dunvegan.
A stone having been raised is now unveiled to perpetuate the memory of John Macleod of Macleod.
The title Macleod of Macleod has now passed to his son Hugh. Inside the walls of Dunvegan Castle, I wanted to know what the future holds for the 30th chief of Clann MacLeod.
Magnificent room, full of portraits of, I suppose, your ancestors, the clan chiefs Macleod.
Yes, and this is a painting of my father, who sadly passed away this year.
He looks very much the chief there.
And he was a very powerful personality.
So your father was very aware of his Highland heritage that went right back to the early chiefs who were great patrons of the arts.
Yes, it started by Alistair Crottach, and my father continued that. He was very proud of that. He had two real passions in his life, and the one was, first was music, and the second was Dunvegan. So he did have a very strong passion for the arts, but he also understood that he had a duty to Dunvegan and being chief of Clann MacLeod.
Where do you think the role of clan chief and the concept of clanship fits into the 21st century?
Well, I mean, my father died 5 months ago. It's way too early for me to be able to say how I feel, really. I mean, I'm still kind of trying to find my way and figure out what it is for me to be a clan chief. I have to find my own kind of way of being a focal point for many clansmen and women who find it very comforting when they come back and know that chief of one branch of the Clann MacLeod is still living in the castle of their ancestors.
The Macleods are no longer the great power they once were. During the 16th and 17th centuries, all the Highland clans underwent massive and permanent change. But the culture they nourished and sustained still endures today. There's no doubt that the Macleods of Dunvegan and Harris have left us with a rich cultural inheritance. But today, responsibility for this legacy doesn't just lie with the chiefs alone. It's one that belongs to the whole of Scotland.
Panorama on BBC One Scotland now investigates if Britain could be heading for a financial crisis similar to that in the US. Here on BBC Two Scotland, Nigella's next.